This weekend, I'll be the color analyst for the Morgan State North Carolina Central broadcast at 6 p.m. Eastern Time in Baltimore, Maryland. And you can watch this football game at ESPN3 and ESPN3.com. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. The more things change, the more things remain the same in the FCS, at least with North Dakota State, who remains undefeated and number 1 in the country. But outside of that, it was a pretty interesting week in the football championship subdivision. And we'll take a look at it all while previewing week 5 in our FCS Kickoff.
Welcome to the FCS Kickoff Show. I'm David Hassagen, and this is your 4-minute offense. With a quarter of the season now gone, it's become clear that the SoCon is not a conference to mess with in 2019. With powers Furman, VMI, and the Citadel have gotten off to great starts with Mercer and Sanford, showing great promise in the early going. But week 5 will be a telling one in deciding who is an aberration and who can contend for playoff spots and the SoCon title. This week's Citadel will be at Sanford, Furman will host East Tennessee State, and traditional power Wofford will look to get off the schneid as they travel to Lexington to face VMI. The Big Sky has once again become the Wild West of the FCS, with upsets aplenty and UC Davis, Eastern Washington, and Northern Arizona having mixed starts to the year. But the state of Montana might be the seat of power in the conference. Montana State has started 3-1 on the year with dominant performance against SEMO, Western Illinois, and Norfolk State, and a well-balanced attack that has averaged almost 32 points per game. Meanwhile, Montana has risen back to the top of the conference behind quarterback Dalton Sneed. Both sides will face very difficult tests this week. Montana State hosts Northern Arizona, while the Grizzlies will travel to UC Davis. After 39 years under legendary coach Jimmy Laycock, William and Mary made their first coaching change in 4 decades, and in early results, it's been good for the Tribe, who have taken 2 FBS teams to the brink. Now William and Mary will enter the heart of what has been a powerful CAA conference schedule when they travel to Albany this week. The Tribe defense will be tested this week against an Albany team that has put up big numbers offensively. This will be a significant test for William and Mary to see if they are a legitimate contender in the CAA this season. And finally, this week will be a critical one in the SWAC, as their conference schedule starts in earnest. 2 matchups in particular will be critical for the SWAC West in Week 5, with Southern looking to get their second win against one of the surprise teams of 2019, Arkansas Pine Bluff, and Grambling. They will travel to Prairie View A&M as their teams start to establish their conference dominance. Now here's another reason why you should choose FCS.
I think the FCS gives a student athlete a chance to really develop in the classroom and on the field. And I don't think there's anything that gets in the way of the development of the student athlete. You know, whereas in sometimes other conferences, other levels of play, I think there's some things that could sway a student athlete in a wrong direction here or there. But I think at the FCS level, I think it's all about the student athlete. I think it's all about his development in the classroom and also on the playing field. And it really it keeps your values and your goals right in front of you. And I think there's less things that are going to take you away from those things.
Before we kick off our Week 5 previews, let's take a look at who should be on upset alert this upcoming weekend. There's only one game on our upset alert this week, and it involves the Nicholls Colonels as they travel to San Marcos to take on Texas State. Now, this game will be mainly about which defense decides to show up. The Colonels have struggled a bit in the secondary, while the Bobcats have struggled defending the running game all season long. I do like Nicholls in this contest. Quarterback Chase Forcade has played in enough big games, in my opinion, for the Colonels to where I can trust him to not put his offense in backed up situations and protect the football. I'm going with Nicholls. Moving on to the State Fair Classic at the Cotton Bowl between Grambling and Prairie View A&M. The Tigers lost a close one last week to Alabama State. Now, offensively speaking, they haven't been able to provide that same spark that we've seen from the Tigers over the last few seasons. Prairie View's defense has been a big-time issue so far this season, especially inside the red zone. The Panthers still have the ability to score 40 points because of their dynamic duo at quarterback with Jalen Morton and running back DeWanya Tucker. But will they be able to get stops when needed to close out an opponent? I don't think so, so look for Grambling to get the win in this one. In our nation's capital, the Howard Bison play host to Bethune-Cookman in what should be a very physical game. The Wildcats seem built for that type of battle if it should come down to it. Cookman loves to bully along both sides of the line of scrimmage. Running back Isaac Washington is coming off of a great game last week against Mississippi Valley State. For Howard, they put together a great team win in their last outing against Delaware State. Quarterback Kalen Newton played mistake-free football, and their defense kept the Hornets' offense sputtering all game long. Stopping the run will be key in this one for the Bison, but I do like Bethune-Cookman's defense just a little bit more from a consistency perspective. Another big game in the SWAC between Southern and Arkansas Pine Bluff. The Jaguars offense didn't look like itself and struggled to get its rhythm going against FAMU last weekend. Defensively, they cover so much ground because of their speed and athleticism, it gives them a chance to compete regardless if the offense is on or off that particular day. Now, it's been a fantastic year for the Golden Lions this season. They're off to a 3-1 start, getting excellent play from their offense, and head coach Cedric Thomas is doing a great job in building a sustainable foundation with that program. I do like Pine Bluff to win this one. They have spectacular talent in the backfield in Taylor Porter and Keshawn Williams. Look for both guys to pave the way for another Golden Lions victory.
I think that the main reason to choose HBCU is for the family atmosphere. The guys are going to get the core values that their parents taught them, that their family members tried to raise them. You'll have a close-knit atmosphere. You'll actually have guys that care about you as a person. So I think that's the main reason for choosing the HBCU.
Long Island heads to Staten Island to battle the Wagner Seahawks in their second NEC game since moving up to D1. Both teams really need to find some offense as they have yet to find that consistent production on that side of the ball, despite two solid quarterbacks in Clay Beathard of LIU and Christian Alexander of Wagner. Now, what we do know is that the Seahawks defense has enough juice to lead the way up against the upstart Sharks. Look for Wagner to notch his first win of the season. A battle in H-Town as Texas Southern and Houston Baptist meet up on the gridiron for the Tigers. It's about stopping the bleeding defensively. Texas Southern has given up on average 61 points a game, nearly 370 yards rushing at 9.6 yards a carry, and 335 yards passing a game. Now, that's not what you want to hear when you're facing a Huskies squad that's in the midst of their best season in program history, averaging 48 points a game on offense. I trust Houston Baptist in this ball game. Plus, their defense is just a tad bit better than TSU. Pivotal game here between Richmond and Fordham, who seem to be at a crossroads at this juncture of the season. The Spiders have been so inconsistent up front that it's tough to figure out what type of team that they really are. Fordham's offense hasn't had the cohesiveness that you'd like to see. They have good talent at the skill positions, but they're still trying to figure things out themselves on that side of the ball. I think we could be in for a nice back and forth up in the Bronx. I'm going with the upset here. I do think Fordham's running back Zach Davis will have a huge day on the ground. I like the Rams. Eastern Illinois is trying to get their first victory of the season as they play host to the surprising Tennessee Tech Golden Eagles. Tech has a sensational freshman wide receiver in Metrius Fleming, who's paired up nicely with fellow wideout senior Austin Hicks. Now, the Golden Eagles are thriving where the Panthers are struggling. Eastern Illinois can't find any offense to help push them over the hump. Now, they've only averaged 4.8 yards a game, and that's not going to get it done, and it won't get it done in this contest as well. Big game in Macon, Georgia between Campbell and Mercer. Now, the Campbells were able to hold on last week against a very good Davidson squad and face a Mercer team that has lost 2 straight games. Where the Campbells will try to get better is in the run defense department. Granted, Davidson provides a unique challenge in that regard based off how they operate offensively, but Mercer's ability to run could find itself having success. Now, where the Bears have to tighten up in this ball game is situationally. Red zone defense third down defense, not turning the ball over. If they can play a clean game from a consistency standpoint, they got a shot. I like Campbell in this matchup. Offensively, they don't make many mistakes, and that's something that travels really well. Cornell and Yale meet up in an Ivy League tilt. The Big Red is coming off of a big win against Marion. I'm a big fan of their running game and running back Harold Coles, who went over 100 yards last week. However, this Cornell defense is going to be put to the task. Can they do a great job in taking away one aspect of Yale's offense, which thrives on balance? I don't see that happening. I do like Yale in this ball game. Don't sleep on the Bulldogs' offensive line. I think they do a great job of owning the line of scrimmage, and they will do a great job in this one. Robert Morris heads about an hour and a half west to Youngstown State, and they're bringing with them one of the top receiving talents in tight end Matthew Gonzalez. The Senior Bowl watch list prospect helped lead the Colonials to victory last week over VMI, hauling in 3 receptions for 126 yards. Now, what Robert Morris will need is a defensive line to win collectively at the point of attack, as Youngstown State, so far in its early parts of the season, have proven to be one of the better offensive line units in the Missouri Valley Conference. I like the Penguins in this ball game. I absolutely love how they're dominating up front, and look for their ground game to once again be the story after this one. This is a big matchup in the SoCon between Furman and East Tennessee State. The Paladins look dominant so far against their FCS opponents, and strong against their FBS ones as well. The reason? The run game led by Devin Wynn. Wynn leads his team with 379 yards rushing, averaging an impressive 7.4 yards a carry. But Wynn can't be Wynn without how great they've been playing along the offensive line. And that's the biggest matchup in this ball game, as Nasir Player, the stud defensive end, will be one of the players that they'll have to stop. So it'll be interesting to see if they'll open up this offense just a bit, considering the magnitude of this matchup. And I'm talking about East Tennessee State, but I do believe the Paladins have enough to keep the Bucks at bay and win this ball game. Over in the OVC, Jacksonville State travels to play Austin Peay. The Gamecocks are riding a 3-game winning streak and have seemed to turn the corner with regards to their consistency. Over the last 3 games, we've seen Jacksonville State play much better third down defense and much better inside the red zone. They're doing a great job of maximizing their offensive opportunities. That's where Austin Peay still has to get better, in my opinion. The Governors have been playing spotty defensively in both aspects of their game there. Ball security has also become a bit of an issue, putting its defense in a bad situation. I think we'll see the Gamecocks continue to roll here. I like Jacksonville State. Huge battle in the Big Sky between 2 top 25 teams as the Grizzlies of Montana head west to take on the Aggies of UC Davis. What a great defensive effort, in my opinion, against the Monmouth Hawks by this Montana run defense. Is that type of effort that could really help this team go far. And speaking of effort, the Aggies gave a valiant one in the Fargo Dome, taking on North Dakota State to the brink, or taking them to the brink last weekend. I thought the defense of UC Davis played well enough to win. Obviously, you don't expect Jake Mayer to toss 3 interceptions, and I don't think he will in this game either. What I do think will happen, though, is the Montana team, who is clicking in all 3 facets of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, will head into UC Davis Health Stadium and get a victory. Weber State hosts Northern Iowa this weekend, and this is only the 2nd game of the Wildcat season where they play an FCS opponent. Northern Iowa is coming off of back-to-back wins against Big Sky opponents and are looking to get their 3rd in Ogden, Utah. Defensive lineman Ellerson Smith has been a terror coming off the edge and figures to play a huge role in the Panthers' ability to try and make Weber State one-dimensional. It's a tough task, as the Wildcats do bring tremendous talent to the table in quarterback Jake Constantine and both running backs Josh Davis and Kevin Smith. I like Weber State in this ball game along both sides of the line of scrimmage. The Wildcats, in my opinion, will be able to take control there, neutralizing the Panthers' ability to create havoc. And now it's time for our Stats FCS Game of the Week preview, and this week we head to the CAA as James Madison travels to the Phoenix of Elon. And outside of North Dakota State, no one in the FCS is playing better ball collectively than the Dukes. They're explosive offensively, and on the defense side of the ball, they can get after the quarterback and they can turn the ball over. For Elon to pull off the upset in this ball game, they'll need continued stellar play from their quarterback Davis Cheek, as their offense will have to find completions and also ways to be efficient and productive through the air. Cheek has not turned the ball over so far this season and is playing the position as good as anyone in the FCS. Now defensively, I like how active they've been around the line of scrimmage, getting to the quarterback 8 times so far this season. I still like James Madison in this ball game. The Dukes are a great defensive team and can consistently make teams play a one-dimensional game. So look for James Madison to make it tough for the Phoenix passing game to be effective and get the win. So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the FCS Kickoff. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts, and let's keep the conversation going. Also, subscribe to the Football Gameplan Network located on YouTube at youtube.com/footballgameplan, where you can also find our FCS Whip Around as our 13 FCS correspondents get you caught up on what to look for in the upcoming week in the FCS. And head over to iTunes and subscribe to Football Gameplan Podcast, where you can find our FCS Opening Drive podcast, where David Hassagen and myself give you all of the news, notes, and tidbits surrounding the FCS. You can find it also on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/FBGP podcast.